Live from This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
Yes, we are back here on Sunday night to talk some pro wrestling of the WWE variety. Coming up here in the next hour on Nuclear Heat. Thanks for joining us. If you first time listening, tell your friends about us as we get going here. I'm Jake Bachman alongside my tag team partner, Augie Pena, Nuclear Heat contributor. Augie, how's it going today?
Well, pretty good. Happy to be back and talking about wrestling after a couple weeks of not, being able to talk to you about it. I feel like I haven't even seen you in over a week since we haven't been doing this either.
That's right. We do know we'd never see each other outside the show. So no, that's not entirely true. But in any case, it was probably a good couple weeks. Sometimes, of course, here at 93.7 The Ticket, things are going to happen. I think one thing was a holiday. So
yeah,
well, every once in a while we do take a holiday. I think a Husker men's basketball game post game kind of took one of our spots a couple weeks ago. That also is fine as long as they're undefeated, right?
Yep, we'll do it. I mean, hey, as long as the Skurs keep winning, we can, put our wrestling on the back burner just a little bit there.
Yeah, it is an exciting time, an interesting time for wrestling as we get into it. So we will kind of talk about that as we always do. We review Raw and SmackDown and look ahead to next week's show. Of course, for Raw, that will be tomorrow night. And it is a big night. They're building toward basically the first shows of the new year for each of them. Is that WWE Raw and WWE SmackDown will have their top titles defended in each of these shows. So we really get excited, and I do personally kind of for this premium live events that we kind of talk about, and then they kind of reset the schedule, kind of leading up to the next one. It's a bit odd and a bit, but you understand it because they've got all these different television partners and broadcast partners that at some point Netflix is going to want, the big event, right? And USA Network's going to say if they could do that, we need something in here too. So you got to feed everybody, and so this feels like a PLE type of show, a pre-PLE show.
Yeah, it does. And aren't they doing something with Stranger Things as well? I think tomorrow which that ended. So. I don't know. We'll see if there's something coming. But yeah, it's exciting, right? It's an exciting time to get people to watch it again. I know I'm gonna be watching it on there and all that stuff. But yeah,
did you watch Stranger Things?
I did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never watched the show, so I'm everybody's talking about it. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yep. Watched this in season 1. Let's just say very let down by how they decided to end it. But I saw that they're collaborating with it for Raw. So I guess maybe the ring will just, they'll something like that. Maybe the actresses will be there on that. But WWE horror, they like the kind of action. They like to mix that stuff in there. So possibly something like that.
Yeah, maybe they can make the White Six scary again. We'll see what they do.
Maybe
as they move along. They've got a big 8-team tag team match coming up there on Friday. But let's jump into Raw. We might as well. There's no overwhelming topic, I think, to get to. There's just a lot of good action. I mean, I think wrestling's been pretty good. The one thing that I did want to speak on before we get to it, once we run into it here on Raw and they open up with it, is now Austin Theory being the surprise man under the mask. A lot of people did guess that. Of course, this going back a couple of weeks. We haven't had a show the last couple of weeks. Turns out it is Austin Theory, and kind of just I that's the one part of it. I'm not sure I completely love the direction. It's not anything against Austin Theory. I just think it's a little bit odd, right? If you had Austin Theory break up, your premium live event, the Survivor Series War Games would have been a little bit underwhelming. So they had to put him in a mask, have him do it, wait a couple weeks and do a reveal. And again, from there, it's about what's the execution with it moving forward. You've got a plan in there. There's many people that think he's basically sent in there by Seth Rollins to break up the vision, and that would be an exciting way. He does get the stomp. Yeah. He's taken that. He's learned that, so that's good for his character development. But can they do anything more with Austin Theory in the vision? Does it make it more of a threatening group, or what are your kind of thoughts of going with the Austin Theory, the man behind the mask?
It's a little confusing because he was kind of one of the main talking points when Seth Rollins first started this group, right? Was, hey, Austin Theory will come back. I think if you had like a made established it guy at like a Seth Rollins, doing the whole, hey, you're with me now, let's bring you up. I think that makes a little bit of sense, but I don't know. He just seems like another guy to just fall into place, right? I mean, you already got Bronson Reed there. Braun Breaker's trying to be that guy. Logan Paul. It's a big stable, of heels. So that's something there. And I mean, anybody who gets the Paul Heyman rub, I feel like it works out for them, right? So that could be good. He's got like an edgier, attitude to him. So that's good. He's got the buzz cut going on for him. I don't know. As long as he doesn't just turn into the guy that takes the pinfalls, I think it'll be okay. But I don't know. There was something about when the mask was taken off and it was revealed to be Austin Theory. I was like, okay, we knew that was him, but I kind of like, I don't know. I would have extended it a little bit longer, right? Done more with it. And then, hey, it's Austin Theory. And then they teased the whole, will they let him in, things like that. And then ultimately he's in, like that. And you're kind of like, we'll see. So it could work out, but I just think that 4 guys under Paul Heyman, I don't know. I just think that's kind of too many for that.
Yeah, it is interesting. I'll see where, like you said, we have to kind of let them play it out and see how it goes. But it really has kind of become Paul Heyman's group. A lot of with these groups, you like to point to the, some of the stables in the past that have worked. But, a lot of them do have a Seth Rollins, like you said, somebody that's put over and then will continue to put the rest of them over. Judgment Day, even, you think of all the young names on there that started, with Edge. So it is interesting. Paul Heyman, I suppose, is that guy. It's kind of a compilation of the future of this business, right? But the one thing I will continue to say about, Logan Paul's the tallest one of the group. Yeah. So they're kind of missing, in my mind, the big bruiser. And I suppose if you added a huge bruiser, one, who would that be at this point? Yeah. And 2, would that overshadow that's kind of the bronze roles, right? Yeah. Or be the muscle of the group. So, I get Austin Theory's inclusion. He's definitely a young wrestler, maybe, the future. But it's also that deal and as the stable, I think it works out for now. But if everybody's a Paul Heyman guy, then it kind of takes away from being a Paul Heyman guy. So, this is obviously a Paul Heyman stable. I think when Seth Rollins comes back, you've got, obviously a lot to work with there. So we'll see. And what are the enemies they kind of make along the way? Is Braun Breaker going to win this title? All that sort of stuff. So it's interestingly enough, but it's still one of those things like, all right, we're waiting for it because, that's what I always kind of do. The backwards math again is going back to Survivor Series. Did I watch all that programming for Austin Theory to kind of determine the match, and then 2 weeks later he's just kind of in and they just move along? Would have wanted a little bit more out of that. So that's interesting. Is CM Punk going to want to get his hands on Austin Theory? Kind of didn't, at the first, still obviously very much focused on Braun Breaker. So a little bit to work with there. They're going to have to show us why, what they saw in Austin Theory and to make him a part of that group. So on Raw, the Vision did open up with their in-ring promo introducing Austin Theory as the newest group, the member of the group. CM Punk interrupted. None of the Vision could touch him, or it would kind of cancel the championship match. So none of that one happened. But he did go face to face with Braun Breaker to prepare for the championship bout, which will be on Monday. Nothing too much here. I think Braun Breaker just kind of stood his ground and looked good with one of the best to ever do it with a mic in their hands, and I think that was as much as the way they're looking for with anything.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It's a good a good setup, for what's going to be their title match on tomorrow on there and everything. And I thought, a lot of what I don't know, I just thought they did a really good job. CM Punk had some good liners in there. Braun Breaker did as well. Like I said, the whole saying that Austin Theory was included a little too soon for me, but you kind of saw that coming. But yeah, I think it's interesting whenever they add the you can't touch the champion, that at least shows us that, what we're at least going to get a match come Monday on there. But yeah, I think anytime you open, Raw with the Vision kind of doing something like that, I think it's a sign of a good show.
Yeah. And again, I think they did what they wanted to as far as setting up Breaker and Punk, but you bring up a good point. I did go into that kind of thing. Okay, here's the presentation of Theory, why this is going to, some more explanation, some more insight or what this is going to look like. And I think he got maybe a sentence or two on the mic and handed it over. So still waiting on that. In-ring action started with Stephanie Vaquer, Nikki Bella, and Raquel Rodriguez in a three-way battle for the women's title. Of course, Stephanie Vaquer holding that. As usual, Raquel Rodriguez using her size advantage early in the match. Nikki Bella even had a close call with the power bomb there during it at some point. But ultimately, Raquel Rodriguez went for the double Tejada bomb, but Vaquer got loose. Raquel was still able to land that on Nikki Bella, but Vaquer was able to throw Raquel out of the ring and get the pin on Nikki Bella. So to no one's surprise, they did not go with a title change here, but an interesting enough way to get to that decision.
Yeah, it was a little bit sloppy of an ending. I thought, it wasn't, it was good, but it wasn't executed to perfection there. But yeah, I thought that obviously the right move. You can't give it to Nikki Bella, who's kind of just here, as a legend. Rocking Eagles colors, by the way. The rumor that she's with Coop. I don't know if you
Cooper DeJean, really?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Okay.
I guess she was at a couple practices and whatnot, and they've been hanging around. So people are saying they're a couple together.
That's
so
interesting. Little age gap.
22-year age gap.
Well,
on there, he's 22, she's 44.
Good for Coop.
Yeah, good for Coop. But she's out there, like I said, rocking that Eagles gear because she's her and her sister are known big time Eagles fans as myself. But like I said, it's good, and maybe they can move on from something like this, because she's now had 3 opportunities at this belt. And Stephanie, I would like to see Stephanie and Raquel go one-on-one for it, or Roxanne. Nikki, you've had enough chances. I think you've done the rub off, all that stuff. Let's get some more challengers in there now.
Yeah, and she needs a win. She does need something to make her look a little bit more threatening. Again, always good on the mic and has the star power to it, but a win here and there wouldn't hurt her character. Kabuki Warriors had a promo that ended with Rhea Ripley and Io Sky standing tall. They've got a matchup for the tag team championships coming up tomorrow on Monday as well. Forgive me, but as we kind of run through the SmackDown and Raw going through these matches, it's all kind of the same thing, right? I mean, all of it's kind of blending together, all these different tag teams, which is great for the women's division, that they're really hyper-focused on the tag teams. We've talked about how in the years past, that's kind of been thrown to the back of the card, and now they've almost like they're making up for it by throwing all their single stars on teams and fighting each other for the World Tag Team Championships, which, again, I think will be good once we get there. But all of this kind of trying to figure out who's winning latest in this chapter of the rivalry doesn't really matter until you get there. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad choice. I mean, you're getting people, especially that are going to the show, are excited to see, feel like they're part of the action once we kind of get to this match. But I don't know if you're like me. It's all just kind of blending together.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm going to say this, and I don't know. Take it how you want to, because I'm going to be in the different. I'm kind of getting cringed out by the Rhea Io Sky tag team.
Don't like it.
I just think what they're doing is just too kind of corny. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just their, I don't know. Rhea's supposed to be this big bad, but she kind of act, she's mommy, which I hate saying that still. And I don't know, just kind of the way they communicate, and they're just too lovey-dovey, right? Because on one side, we talked about this on Raw. You have her, Rhea, this nice, gentle with Io Sky. And then on SmackDown, she's supposed to be this terror twin with Damian Priest, who are, the twins of destruction, things like that. You know, I think she does that better than, this whole, I don't know. It's kind of like the Charlotte Alexa Flair. I don't know, when they try to make them act too much like too good, it just doesn't work for me. And I think that's kind of what's happening here. So, I'm kind of happy if they were to lose and then break up the tag team, because it's not hitting for me there.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. A lot of the crowd loves Rio, as they call it. So, two very popular singles acts. Not necessarily a whole lot. I mean, the chemistry or their team so far, as you put it, they just kind of hug each other, and that's about it. And now they have, of course, this whole started with the Kabuki Warriors kind of shunning Io Sky and all that. And I thought that feud was particularly good. But again, that's when you kind of get in this danger of kind of just throwing everybody together, because then that just bled into the Survivor Series match, which just kind of has bled into now here, where you're still kind of teaming with each other. And I think on SmackDown, they specifically did wrestle with a lot of those women from Survivor Series, and so again, it's just all kind of blending the same. And at least you've got that take there. You know me, I'm a big Rhea Ripley fan. I like Io Sky. I mean, I'd agree. I think there could be a little bit more behind their storytelling there. But yeah, I mean, they're still getting the reaction, so they might stick together for a while, unfortunately, for you. Let's get to Gunther now versus R-Truth. This started from a backstage confrontation. R-Truth, of course, his childhood hero, John Cena, was taken out by Gunther, so he wants a chance to get back at him. A couple spots for R-Truth and hope spots, I would say, to get the crowd into it for the lovable babyface. But Gunther ultimately gets his chops in and also gets R-Truth to tap out. The question here now is, does Gunther have that heat that he got from beating John Cena? They're trying to carry it forward, but it feels like week after week as they bring, like the first day or whatever, you brought him back after that Saturday night main event. I guess it was 2 days after on Raw. The heat was there. Do you think it's still there?
I think the hate is there. I don't know about heat. You know, we kind of talked about that, right? He's got to be prepared because there's kind of difference between heat and hate, you know, because legitimately, I just think people are maybe like, okay, they're shoving him down our throats. You know, there's a hate towards that. So yes, any reaction is good, right? But I don't know, when it comes to that, I don't think that's the kind of reaction you want. So I think there's a lot of that. And then, you know, the couple weeks after that, it's been a lot of just kind of backstage segments, right? We kind of talked about, okay, you're going to be the guy that retired Goldberg and retired John Cena. You know, now, you know, need to do more. And I mean, he's had confrontations with AJ Styles, Rey Mysterio, and now R-Truth. I don't know. You got to have him on a heater, man. He's just got to beat everybody. You know, he's got to be this big bad. And to his point, he's doing a good job, you know, laughing. Using the B word a bit too much, you know, about John Cena. So they're kind of overplaying that hand there. But you know, all that stuff. So I don't know. I think it is there, but they got to do more with him. You know, they got to make like matches every week, tapping guys out, like that ignorant guy, you know, that just, you know, thinks he's the best, and then eventually get him, you know, maybe a world title or close to a world title. Cause right now it just kind of feels like he's, no disrespect, but he's kind of just messing with legends now, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you got to go a different direction than that.
Yeah, no, that's what I would say so too. Is like, you know, I think they've done a good enough job. Of course, he keeps waving his hands in everybody's face, which is good. So I mean, I think there's enough there that I see what they're doing, but this is kind of the frustration I have a lot of the time with the WWE. And you got to save your spots, right? And so they know what they're doing, but it just feels like sometimes when the wrestlers have the most heat, it's like, I'm tuning in specifically to see this. I want to see what happens next. And they just kind of sit on it for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what they're doing here with Gunther. And again, I think it's been done well enough to this point, but it's time to push him into something. Because otherwise you're not going to capitalize off the heat, right? Soon he just kind of comes back to the same Gunther character that we all kind of knew and already kind of wasn't right, was a heel.
Yeah.
So you know, you can kind of fall back into that character, but you want to maintain the heat for beating John Cena. And I think that might be wearing off if they're not too careful soon.
And I got to say this, the Royal Rumble's coming up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you chose him to retire John Cena, you got to think that he's probably a favorite to win the Royal Rumble, right? Like that's kind of where you push him, right? Even if the fans hate it. Hey, if he wins that Royal Rumble, then that means him tapping John Cena. That was kind of worth it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that, and he's got to lose at WrestleMania. We know that. So he's got to get there. So he got to get a spot.
Yeah. Just hopefully not the same as Zayn or Jey Uso, because he's got to lose to somebody bigger than
that. Let's jump into it then. The next match there was Rey Mysterio and Austin Theory. Austin Theory's debut as part of the Vision. Very much looking forward to this. Wasn't much to it, unfortunately. Logan Paul ends up interrupting, get a disqualification. Penta comes out and makes a save. Huge pop for Penta. Penta and Rey Mysterio together. Very cool pairing. I like what they're doing there. But going into the match, I'm thinking Austin Theory, Rey Mysterio, absolutely perfect booking. Rey Mysterio, the ultimate good guy. Everybody's going to cheer for him. And to try to beat Austin Theory, here's a perfect spot. Get more heat on Austin Theory. Do something dastardly, to beat Rey Mysterio and get going there. Instead, Austin Theory, again, his first match as a member of the Vision ends in him with a loss. not getting pinned, but still a loss via DQ.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was saying. You don't want him being the guy that, there's just losses, because when you have the vision, Logan Paul, of course, comes in and gets that. But it's like, it's just so frustrating, right? Build him up more, kind of like with Gunther. He's the reason that a really cool Survivor Series ended the way it did, right? And a lot of fans were kind of upset about that. Okay, put the heat on him. And then, great for Ray, but Ray, you don't need a disqualification, at this point. You don't need something like that. And I don't know. I was very frustrated watching this as well, because I was like, you didn't need to do that.
Well, and it might be setting up for a bigger vision, of course, of Austin Theory and Logan Paul kind of defeating Rey Mysterio in Penta. Sometimes you got to let the good guys at least get their shots in before it happens in the feud. And I think that's probably what we're heading for, right? I mean, Logan Paul already kind of had a run-in with Mysterio. It doesn't seem like they've necessarily ironed that out enough. So I think you're going to see that. But yeah, again, I think they just, strike while the iron's hot. At least put something on the character that you've built a lot of programming around. But I mean, this was buried in the middle of the show, so maybe we should have known this was coming.
Yeah, but here's the problem. On the other side of that, you have Penta, right? Who's huge pops, right? We've talked that they've done a horrible job of booking him. You're going to have Austin Theory and Logan Paul go over Penta again. That's frustrating to me as a guy that had a lot of hopes for Penta. Somebody that I still think could be a world champ. He's got the reaction. He's got the Seattle Mia. Everybody loves him. And he's kind of a Finn Balor, right? He's somebody you want at the top, but you can't, which on the flip side would be huge for Austin Theory and Logan Paul to get a win over. But, as a WWE fan, as we are, I still think that'd be very disappointing. And that Rey Mysterio could take the pins. I don't think, Penta should be on the losing side of that.
Yeah. Well, never doubt Rey Mysterio's ability to win feuds. He shouldn't, because sometimes they just let him do it.
Yep,
so
that's true.
They might ultimately do it. But again, for me, as I'm looking to build these heels, I think you've got to make us a reason to be more invested and more frustrated toward Austin Theory. So maybe this is a way to do that. We then had the Maxine Dupree promo, which was interrupted by Becky Lynch. Kind of a reversal of roles here, to a degree for Becky Lynch, at least, where she was trying to be kind to Maxine the best she could. I mean, they did a good job. She's a great actor. I love her. She was kind of going through that. But Maxine Dupree no longer kind of the champion that doesn't deserve to be there, threatened to break her leg or pin her again, make her tap. So we'll see. They've got their match coming up, Intercontinental title match coming up Monday night, tomorrow night as well. And one thing that I did notice and have noted so far, and maybe it's all for Natalya to come out at some point, but they had her specifically training with Natalya.
Yeah.
In these these promo videos. I don't think that's a bad idea, right? At least a name that we know, the Hart family, obviously well known in wrestling. But, and I mean this is no disrespect, if Natalya started hanging around with Maxine Dupree, they just have done nothing with her for a decade plus. Yeah. So it's like, I feel like that would drag down her a little bit. And that's what I kind of felt when they initially did that. I'm glad they've kind of sticking with it. And at this point, the strides that Maxine Dupree has made from the beginning of this feud to where she is now on the mic, in the ring, I mean, it just kind of goes to show you what Becky Lynch and working with Becky Lynch can do for a young talent, because I think that's got to be one of the bigger stories of the last month and a half at WWE.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We were talking about why was she on a WWE roster? She looked horrible. And now she is an Intercontinental champ. She looks like she does deserve it, even though her 2 wins over Becky Lynch, were a disqualification and interference, and everything there. But yeah, the promos with the dungeon I thought were cool. I do agree. Maybe if Natalya comes out as kind of a manager, that helps a little bit. But yeah, if there's any sort of a feud there, or I forgot Natalya was on the roster, for the longest time there too. But yeah, this was fine. Maxine, man, that speech she gave was great. So I am looking forward to this. No reason for her to drop this title, right? Like, she has to keep continuing there, and then you kind of have to go with a new feud. And I agree. I hope it's not, anything with Natalya, they don't bring that out. Go with somebody fresh, even a Bailey, come back around to that, something like that. But yeah, I thought Monday, last Monday did what it needed to do. And congratulations to Maxine. I think she got married this week as well too. So big kind of month for her, winning her first title, beating Becky Lynch, and getting married all at the same time.
Yeah, what a time to be alive for Maxine Dupree. Final match on Raw here was the tag team title match. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee versus the Usos. Jimmy has to motivate Jay. Jay's down on himself. Yeah. He just doesn't believe in himself, despite the fact he's won a world title within the last year, which should be, whatever. I just feel that storyline's a little bit silly, but they want to continue that with, kind of Jay's doubt. But part of that is bringing the Usos back together. He's out of the singles division, at least for now, back within the Usos. This was an entertaining match. I mean, the crowd was cheering for it. Obviously, the Usos are one of the best of all time to do it. Jay was able to kick out of a Styles Clash at one point. Not too many people can say that. In the end, AJ Styles gets double super kicked, and then Lee hit with a 1D for the Usos win. That's the 9th tag team title for the Usos. Now the New Day have the record in WWE with 11. So that would be interesting to see if they track that. The New Day still obviously one of the tag team competitors in WWE right now, though it's just not the same without Big E. But yeah, and creative hasn't done them any favors. By the way, if you're kind of doing that, because I was looking at how far are they from the records? Kofi Kingston has 16 titles with combined, not just within the New Day. So he is the most of anybody of tag team titles. The Dudley Boys claim the most titles for like all companies, anywhere between 18 and 23. But for WWE, 11 is the record for the New Day. And the Usos being back together, they're gonna have a chance to chase that, I believe.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And I'm gonna go on and say I hate when they include all titles, from every company, because look at the New Day. They've mostly been with the WWE, and that's WWE's the Holy Grail, right? That's like the big lead. So on things like that, and no disrespect to it, but going over to TNA or something like that, especially when the Dudley Boys did, that's a little bit different. But I thought it was interesting. This was a good match. It was fun. I also don't like Jay's story because the guy just beat John Cena for the Royal Rumble. Like you said, won at WrestleMania, everything like that. But yeah, they go ahead and they win another tag team title there. So we'll see kind of where their storyline goes, right? Because they're kind of, like you said, Jimmy still having to get Jay to kind of buy back into everything. They win the titles. I think we predicted maybe that this might be a short reign. They might have another breakup coming, feud, something like that for Jay. Will the Bloodline come back? I mean, Roman Reigns is still around the corner. So yeah, a lot of interesting things they could do there. Or, they could just do what they do with every other title right now. That's not a one of the two top ones, and just, AJ Lee and the Usos just drop it once, back and forth. And then, they're at 11, and then it's a New Day versus the Usos, at WrestleMania for that 12th title.
Wow. What a year that would be for at least the New Day, going full circle from last year. I can't even think of the name, the Warriors.
Oh, the War Raiders.
War Raiders. Yeah. The War Raiders. How that made WrestleMania, I'll never be able to tell you, but it did somehow. But yeah, I mean, I've even heard too with WWE's rights to TNA that you might bring the Hardys up to fight the Usos, which would be really fun. And the idea I saw specifically would have the New Day in that as well. I'd prefer just to leave the New Day out, but like historically, maybe there's something there. And for the New Day, it's nothing against them. It's just their characters are lost right now. So maybe that would be what they would need to kind of bring them back up. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we'll review what happened to SmackDown, and then we will finish out the show by predicting what's going to happen this week on Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown. That's coming next year on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
Winter is just around the corner. Is your vehicle ready? Don't get left out in the cold. At A1 Automotive, we prep your car for whatever winter throws your way here in Nebraska. For battery checks, brake inspections, tires, heaters, whatever your car needs to keep you and your family safe on the road, we've got you covered. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
In a world where Wi-Fi battles rage and bandwidth is never enough, one family dares to connect it all. Work from home, influence all day, stream all night, and game to win. Deadlines, downloads, and dance-offs, all happening under one roof, flawlessly. Can your internet provider do that? Fiber fuel your household at allofiber.com/all-in.
Mike, I've been thinking our house could really use a makeover. How about new siding?
I've been thinking the same thing. Have you heard of James Hardy?
Yes! Sarah down the street had Roofing Service Company install James Hardy siding on their home, and they love it.
Roofing Service Company does have great reviews.
They took her through the design process and made everything super easy.
Roofing Service Company offers expert design and installation. Couple that with James Hardy's durable products and variety of colors, you and your family will love your exterior remodel. Just visit roofingservicecompany.com. That's roofingservicecompany.com.
Hey there, this is Paul Scheel, owner of High Electric. I want to thank our friends and loyal customers and introduce High Electric to those looking for a new electrician. We've been serving the Lincoln and Omaha area for over 30 years, from design to install, upgrades, and repair. If you are a homeowner or a small business needing some electrical work, call us at 402-466-6606 or check us out at hyelectric.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Big value and big flavor meet at Wings and Rings thanks to the all-new delicious Duo Combo. This is the one you've been waiting for. Get one half-sized appetizer and 2 entrees with a side for only $19.99. Bring a friend for the best deal in town on any day of the week, during game time, or whenever the heck you want. Their made-to-order wings and chicken sandwiches are waiting for you at their 68th and O and 40th and Old Cheney locations. Stop by Wings and Rings and celebrate every day with the best meal deal in town.
Rick Heyman here from Starter Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. You can count on Starter Heyman for the very best quality, value, and customer service. When it comes to your jewelry needs, visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at starterheyman.com, and thank you for your continued trust after all these years.
It's basketball season, and Salt Mine City is your pregame and postgame headquarters in the Haymarket for craft beers and great food. Get ready for the game with their big, fatty 7-ounce hamburger or try a Reuben sandwich served on Blackstone rye bread. And don't forget their beef or chicken nachos with guacamole, sour cream, jalapenos, and more. Wash it down with one of their 12 beers on tap, including the popular Single Axle Light American Lager. Salt Mine City, your basketball headquarters, now open at 2 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 11 a.m. Friday through Sunday at 8th and R.
Sometimes good people make mistakes. When you find yourself in need of an attorney, call Liberty Law Group. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group will defend you in court and protect your freedom to get you the best possible outcome and the justice you deserve. Trust your freedom to Liberty Law Group, the best criminal attorneys in Nebraska and Iowa. Call them today at 877-404-5238. That's 877-404-5238. Or check them out online at libertylawgroup.com.
If one of the things running through your mind as a business owner is the recurring worry of possible cyber attacks, you can let out a sigh of relief. Hamilton Business Technologies has you covered. As the official business IT partner of the Huskers, we offer real-time threat monitoring, advanced security protocols, and more to keep your data safe from harm. We care about the success of Nebraska businesses and communities like yours. Learn how we can help you at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, a matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with plenty of room for advancement.
Ticket listeners know a dream team when they see one. At Applied Connective, we've been in the game for 20 years and have developed a team of world-class leaders in all things IT. From cybersecurity and Microsoft products to physical security, audio, video, infrastructure, business phone systems, and anything in between. We'll help you leverage technology to become your most secure, efficient, and profitable. Head to our website to check out real reviews and testimonials and sign up for a free tech consultation. We can show you where you might be vulnerable, inefficient, or overspending. It's a game changer, and it's totally free. Claim yours right now at appliedconnective.com.
Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket immediately after every Nebraska men's basketball game for 1 hour of post-game recap. The Nebraska Basketball Postgame Show is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, and the Lincoln Airport on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are back here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket, ready to talk some Friday Night SmackDown. We just got through WWE Raw. Once again, by the end of the show, we'll make our predictions for this upcoming week for Raw. But it is time to jump to 3 hours of SmackDown, which just seems like a lot. If you've noticed, though, since Raw moved to Netflix, they've usually go about 2.5. So you don't get your normal 3 hours of Raw. So now going back to their cable partners, looks like USA Network wants 3 hours. And I was very concerned about it coming into this week's show because the last couple weeks on SmackDown I didn't think were particularly interesting. I just didn't think there was enough kind of going on there as opposed to Raw, which had a lot of the better feuds, I thought. But they kind of doing a bit of a new look on SmackDown now that they've got more time to fill, so we can get into all the new kind of characters that we're seeing show up on SmackDown. But first, the return of an old one. We start with The Miz kind of airing his grievances. Not happy that the tiny balls comments are coming back and circulating once again. Also wants to kind of be known as the locker room leader. At that point, Randy Orton returns to a huge pop. The crowd's excited. Miz wants Miz KO, he mentioned, as Randy got in the ring with him. Randy thought about it for a second, but ends up RKOing The Miz twice before leaving the wrestling ring there. So I thought this was obviously exciting. A perfect way to use The Miz, as we always kind of talk about it. He's good at getting the crowd into it, and then they want to see him get his comeuppance. That happened here. My only one thing would be, and the other thing is they introduced Orton, right? Yeah. SmackDown needs, as I said, more kind of star power. Orton now on SmackDown. He also told Cody in the back after that he's going after the belt, so you kind of get the ball rolling there with a feud that I think would be magic once they finally get to it. But you only get to bring back Orton so many times. Like you said, you've got kind of interesting time coming up. Maybe with the Royal Rumble could have been used there. I always like the Royal Rumble returns, and the last couple of years they haven't been as exciting. And part of that is they don't always space them out or necessarily hold some of the key players back for that. And so that's just one small critique, but it's a very small critique because as long as Randy Orton's on my TV screen, I'm usually pretty happy.
Yeah, no, this was fun, and I'm gonna say this was a good turn for The Miz because I absolutely hated the Joe Henry Miz jingle balls thing.
You didn't like that? Yeah.
I did not like that. I thought that was very corny. Once again,
yeah.
Like you like to say, when we tell our friends about it, hey, you should watch wrestling. That's a segment you don't want them to watch.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's good crowd involvement, but, good for the live audience. But I think us at home, you're kind of like, okay. And then the fact that it went on for felt like 10 minutes. But, they've kind of gone with a small, pelota thing for a while and everything there with The Miz. So, yeah, it was fun. But seeing Randy Orton come back and RKO, first off, faking that he was going to RKO him, I thought was hilarious. And then actually, doing it, I thought that was phenomenal. But yeah, Cody Orton, or Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, they've been teasing that for a very long time. It's WrestleMania season, now would be the time to kind of go for that and really start to build for it. And also, let's just have Randy Orton be the bad guy again, right? Let's just have him come back and be that legend killer, the Viper, and just start punting, RKOing. I think that'd be the best thing to do for him there.
Yeah, we'll see, because they also had Sami Zayn basically let Cody Rhodes know that he wants to come after that title too. So there might just be stacking up kind of folks, make it feel like in the backstage that he's a guy with an X on his back, if you will. So we'll see if they'll get to it again. At some point, they'll print money with that feud, and it will be very good. Second segment there, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss went out. This is an 8-women tag team match against Asuka, Kairi Sane, Lash Legend, and Nia Jax. Ultimately, Sky gets the win with over the moonsault on Kairi Sane. So they're kind of getting the better of the Kabuki Warriors over these last two. Sometimes when they do that, right, then they don't necessarily win the big match coming up there on Monday. So that's something to look out for. I don't know if anything else. I mean, there's some not always the the best spots in this match, but again, when you have 8 people in the ring, that's probably going to happen.
Yeah, nope, exactly what I was going to say. They've been coming on top. That means when the time comes, for that belt, Kabuki Warriors are going to retain. That's kind of what WWE's done. But it's like you said, these good for these ladies. They got something to do. They're bigger names, so be interesting to see who really comes out on top and who ends the feuds, right?
Yeah. Certainly Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss are waiting in the ring. Now they've already won the titles, so you just wonder how long they're going to kind of keep all these teams together. Lash Legend and Nia Jax would seemingly be due for a little bit of screen time and then kind of the next women up. But right now we're seeing it be Flair and Bliss. That's at least as long as Io Sky and Rhea Ripley win, as we saw backstage there. But for now, we will see. I mean, obviously, again, the women's tag team division full of stars. Then we had the new music and new ring gear for Kit Wilson, whose new character is kind of taking on toxic masculinity. So we'll see. It's a modern gimmick. We'll see if he can make it work. So it's always funny when these kind of terms and these different things kind of pop up across culture. There's really only one wrestler that gets the opportunity to carry it, and then we go back and say, that was just a bad gimmick. That was awful. A lot of times just kind of what you make out of it. Kit Wilson, I got to tell you, especially compared to Elton Prince, who I think he's the better of Pretty Deadly. I mean, I love Elton Prince. Kit Wilson has a little bit of ways to go to just grab my attention. So this is at least something to get him going. And by the way, Prince is on the shelf. That must mean for a while there for Pretty Deadly. But by the way, I still think we're best utilized that 1 week with Tiffany Stratton. Remember when it looked like they might kind of, I think that would be a great use of Pretty Deadly, is just to kind of be the wingman for some of the top women in the company. But that's not where they're going with it now. Kit Wilson taking on a returning Matt Cardona. Had a little bit of woo there just to begin, but ultimately fighting as Matt Cardona instead of Zack Ryder. But he still does the Rough Rider. No need, no concern there. He ultimately won this match. First win in 6 years for Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona. Now kind of, I think that's his legal name that he used on outside the company. So interesting enough there. Either of these guys, I know, for kind of the a certain era, I guess maybe 6 years ago, might like to see Matt Cardona return. I'd like to see if they can kind of get anything going for him. And Kit Wilson, I don't think he necessarily needs wins to get his character going necessarily either. So I thought this was a good use of both guys. And while they're going to have to do more for both characters for me to be ultimately interested, again, in this match, it was fresh, it was new on the first 3 hours of SmackDown. So I thought it was entertaining.
Yeah, no, I agree. Kit Wilson, he's poor guy. I think he's just kind of going to be there, right? They're going to try something with him. We'll see if it works. Like you said, I don't know how much it will on there, but for Matt Cardona, I thought that was kind of a huge pop. He's been with TNA, right? I think the Zack Ryder, I think he said he retired him, but only brought him back for John Cena. So that's fun. But yeah, Matt Cardona, it's about time. Chelsea Green's his wife, I think, in real life. So about time they brought him back. And as Zack Ryder, he had a lot of fun stuff, kind of the Staten Island, Long Island guy. I'm not too familiar with, I guess, what Matt Cardona really is for. I know he's not really all like that. But they can have a little bit of fun, and I know he's great in the ring. So, a new guy to kind of come in and hopefully refresh the SmackDown division, which we've talked about outside of Cody, Randy, Drew. They've kind of needed some other names coming in. Matt Cardona could be a guy that they could kind of build up there.
Yeah, we'll see what they do with him coming along. Another new face walking around in the back with Jordan Grace, considering signing. We don't know if she was with SmackDown, but had a few run-ins with Chelsea Green and Jade Cargill. And interesting because she looks fantastic, like as far as muscular in the ring. And so I thought it was kind of interesting. They just kind of had her backstage, kind of hid some of that a little bit. Obviously, you can still kind of see through it, but I guess they're just hoping just hoping that the audience knows who she is and what she brings to the table.
Yeah, and she's a former power lifter, right? Bodybuilder. So yeah, she's got that. She's built. And I think we've seen her at a couple Royal Rumbles now. I think she's been a surprise entry. Man, she can do some stuff. Talk about she's not, a Nia Jax 6'1", 6'2", but I mean, she's probably close to our height, and I mean, she's built. Yeah, she's just built. So the things she can do there, will be a lot of fun. I do hope she signs with kind of a SmackDown, because we also talked about their women's division need, just SmackDown in general just needs kind of a more wrestlers that can impact. And I think she would be phenomenal there, because she's somebody I've seen clips on and kind of interviews and all that. And she's very disciplined in what she does. So I think she'd make a great addition to that SmackDown roster.
Yeah, especially just muscles wise. Obviously, like you said, Jade Cargill kind of towers over her, but just muscles wise, that would be very entertaining to see those two go at it. Then we did have Sami Zayn come out to the ring, refocusing in on the championship that's been evading him his whole career, which is the top title. Trick Williams comes down to either chance of whoop that trick or piped in chance of whoop that trick from WWE. Either way, it sounded loud on the TV screen. Sami Zayn ultimately saying that Trick needs to be humbled. Again, interesting in a few different ways. Obviously, you get a new addition to SmackDown here in Trick Williams, new character, a lot of bravado. So interested to see where he goes there. But again, now reframing Sami Zayn to go after that title. It's been kind of throughout the WWE universe thinking at some point they're going to strike that and maybe have him win the Royal Rumble, or have him kind of be the magical name that kind of gets people going, similar to Kofi Mania or any of those stories that you've seen from the past. But I think they got to be somewhat careful with this, because I said this before, and this was before he won the U.S. title and won the Opens. Like, you already told us he's focused on the top title. Why is he like, you can't just keep doing that. You can't bring him back and then put him back to a mid-card title. If he's going to be after the big title, keep that the storyline.
Yeah, he had one opportunity in my mind to have a Kofi Mania, and that was the Elimination Chamber at Montreal against Roman. He was the hottest name in WWE. He was hometown, family there. I know he wasn't going to do it because he wasn't going to take one of the belts from the bloodline, right, when Roman was atop. But that was his opportunity. Now he's got to the top. He dethroned Gunther for some reason, ended that reign. Had some opportunities. U.S. title, has held kind of every title there. He comes, he goes, he gets into a feud. This is like his 10th time going after a world title, which I know everybody does, but like you said, he just keeps coming back saying, okay, I'm coming for that again. I'm coming. Really hasn't done much after that, right? On there. And I'll just be honest, Sami Zayn, while he's fun and all that stuff, he's not somebody, if you were on the Royal Rumble, it would be kind of like another Jey Uso, where I think I'd be like, that'd be 2 disappointing years in a row of a Royal Rumble winner. And I just don't think he's a guy that can lead this company as a top guy.
Yeah, certainly those are some of the question marks that they had there. And I agree with you. There was a time to strike. But I mean, when he started doing this promo, I was glad to see Trick Williams interrupt him. And he's a face. You're not supposed to be glad, but it was just like, here we go again. Sammy yelling about it out, and it's just, so they've got to get something going with him in that direction. Even close losses and string them together until he gets, maybe a chance to win that or where. I mean, whether you choose to or not, eventually strike, you've got to get him close if you're going to keep going back to that. Then we did have the U.S. Open Challenge continue, this time with Carmelo Hayes as the champion. Of course, he beat Ilya Dragunov while we were off, so we weren't able to talk about that. But I thought they got as much as you want out of the Mad Dragon. Keep it kind of hot, move it along. Carmelo Hayes, another guy, as they've been doing these challenges, it's kind of like the challenge is put on the match of the night. Yep. And Dragunov did a great job with that. I think they're expecting Carmelo Hayes to do the same. And he did here with Johnny Gargano, ultimately winning this one. Interesting in this, too, is that Ciampa was not with Gargano and is reportedly not re-signing. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to go to a different company. Maybe he's just going to take some time off. But that's kind of been reported this week, too, which makes me wonder, are they going to be able to get Johnny Gargano going on a singles run? Because they've tried that before, too, and haven't had much luck with that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I mean, I know he's called Mr. Wrestling, something
Johnny
like
Wrestling.
Yeah, Johnny Wrestling, and he's great, but just sometimes they just don't work for the WWE, right? And the sad thing is, I think his wife Candice LeRae kind of had a bigger spot than he did this year, right? When she took that fall off of the ladder, and everything. So I just don't think that's. Yeah, I just don't think for him that's in store. And Ciampa, I was gonna say, I saw those reports that he's done with WWE. So kind of a weird ending, right? Because they were kind of doing some feuding between them, and once again, possibly no payoff. So another one there. But I thought with Carmelo Hayes, it shows. Carmelo Hayes and Johnny Gargano, they had a great match, and you see what they can do, but it's just things just have to click, right? And I just don't think it will for Johnny Gargano like that.
It does seem the crowd is getting behind. Of course, they've turned Carmelo Hayes kind of to the good guy side, and I think the crowd is getting behind him. So that'll be interesting to see kind of what they do with his run through those kind of U.S. challenges there. From there, we had Drew McIntyre detail the 3 stages of hell that him and Cody Rhodes will go through. One stage of hell, a standard match. I don't know if you can call it 3 stages of hell and start off with a standard match, but I suppose that's that's what they're going with here. The second stage would be a falls count anywhere. In third, says an old school cage match. So I don't know if they're going to bring out the old cages or have the modern one out there. One way or the other. This segment ends with McIntyre burning a Dusty Rhodes picture that he got from Cody's trailer. Cody, of course, can't touch him, otherwise he's going to have to relinquish that title. Kind of weird. They had a bunch of guys R-hide again go out there, 10 of them stop Cody from touching Drew, which, again, sometimes when you have those, it's one thing to have a brawl before the big match. It's another thing to have a brawl where nobody can throw a punch in the match. So it was just kind of weird because you can't tell him don't touch him and then have to hold him back with all your security, So I don't know. It was the visual they're going for. They've kind of got, of course, you do the old, and now here comes the old arguments in wrestling. Do you bring up, passed away wrestlers, and particularly Drew McIntyre is talking about, Cody's father, the legend Dusty Rhodes being in hell. So, of course, you got to get the families right to say all that. And so Cody's on board with it. So you don't have to feel too bad about it. But that's kind of the extra heat they're going with this round for Cody and Drew, which I say has been very repetitive. This one, at least they're trying everything here, right? Yeah. Getting Drew to kind of go, attack different angles, and now these 3 stages of hell. So they're trying to freshen this feud up. I'm at least excited enough to kind of see the result from it. But if it ends with what I expect, which is Drew coming up short again, this feels like a lot of different ways to get to the same result, which we've done before with Drew McIntyre in this spot before.
Yep, 100%. And I'm going to tell you the thing I'm most upset about all this is they're doing a 3 stages of hell, and they are not ending it with the Hell in a Cell. I know they're doing an old school cage match, but this would have been the perfect opportunity to bring back the Hell in a Cell and to have one of them be thrown off the top. They just decide not to do that. But with Cody Rhodes, it's the same thing. He either failed at AEW, Stardust, or his dad, right? You're insulting one of those 3 things. And I think this is like the 5th time Drew McIntyre has gone after his dad, right? So that's it is what it is. Yes, there's extra heat, but to me, I'm kind of like, okay, they do this all the time with Cody, right? It's always you disrespected his dad, which rest in peace to him. He's a great wrestler, and everything there. But I agree with you. Man, it sucks because Cody's not going to lose, but it almost feels like this is one of those times where they should drop the belt, have him lose it, and then he can chase it before WrestleMania season, get it back, and then you've got something. So this is like the one time where I'm going to be like, hey, if Drew McIntyre is going to beat Cody, even for a week or 2, right? I think this would be the perfect opportunity just because it's a different match. It does seem fresh with what they're doing. Because if Cody just beats him, 2 out of 3, whatever, and it's over, I don't think Drew could ever really go after Cody again because he can say, hey, you've never really beaten
me. Yeah, we'll see. And well, we would at least hope that they would at least shelf that for the time being. Once again, with Randy Orton and Sami Zayn asking for the next spot in line, hopefully they could get to that at some point. Next match there, Julia defeated Chelsea Green for the 2nd U.S. title. Of course, this isn't going to be popular with us. We're big Chelsea Green fans. They just gave her that title back. Julia, by the way, winning with a Northern Lights bomb. The crowd did not react at all. There's nobody standing. I think there was one guy that stood up. I think I was legitimately looking to see. So is what it is. Julia, since she's kind of been brought up to the main roster, has now 2 singles titles. This is her 2nd U.S. title. Roxanne Perez was brought at the same time 0 singles titles. And so you got a reminder that the titles don't always mean everything. Roxanne Perez is like a made woman, very interesting with going on with Liv Morgan and the Judgment Day. Julia, they are forcing on us as much as they can. And for some reason at the expense of Chelsea Green, who is just fantastic. Now, I get it to a degree. Chelsea Green's fantastic with or without the belt. You can kind of do most of the same gimmick there. But I just feel like they don't see what they have as potential as making a fun, long reign. Like when you go to 3 hours of SmackDown, I think this would be great just to give her a 2-month run. And not necessarily just fighting Mishin and Julia all the time.
Yep, I'm not gonna lie. I changed the channel when this happened because I was like, what are they doing? Julia had probably one of the worst title reigns, of all time. I think you could say of all time. It was a dud.
Just zero aura.
Yeah, I think whenever she was on, popcorn break, bathroom break, for us, it was okay. What game's on? Something like that. I think we barely covered her, right? It'd be like, oh yeah, Julia was on. Okay, yep, she has a title. All right, there you go. It should be Chelsea Green's, but like we said, Chelsea Green is probably, and not just with us. This is wrestling. The wrestling world.
The crowd's cheering for. This is two heels. The crowd's cheering for Chelsea
Green, and nobody wants Julia. Like, no disrespect to her. I've heard she's great, but they've done nothing with her, right?
Yeah,
and to see this happen again is just so disappointing. It just doesn't make sense.
And of course, it will give Chelsea Green more to complain about, and so it can kind of add to her character too. But yeah, when they lined this match up, I was thinking, okay, fair enough. Yeah, get the Julia thing moving along. Let's get a fun feud in here for Chelsea Green. But apparently, they just don't see it that way. So who knows? At least she's tied with Julia for all-time U.S. title wins with 2.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
From there, I know what you wanted more of was Damian Priest versus Aleister Black. This one, again, trying to do something different. They hyped it up throughout the show, an ambulance match, which they don't do many in WWE history. So it was unique, kind of cool in that way. Rhea Ripley helped out, as we mentioned earlier in the show, by coming out and chasing Zelina Vega down and hitting her with the Riptide. We had the payback for the fireball, which really looked silly. Of course, Aleister Black hit Damian Priest with a fireball a few weeks, about a month, month and a half ago by now. And that took Damian Priest out for a while. Damian Priest's fireball looked like he just lit like a lighter.
Yeah.
And it barely maybe touched. And, so it was just kind of funny. Aleister Black had to sell that. That's a small detail in a match that was otherwise pretty exciting. They gave him plenty of TV time. The most exciting part was probably when Priest threw Black into the ambulance windshield with a razor's edge, which ultimately led him to getting the victory. So, I mean, hopefully you can't go any further with this. Hopefully this is the end of Damian Priest and Aleister Black. For what it was worth, they battled for 6 months. Two kind of dark themed characters, kind of made sense at one time, but end on a good note. You can wrap up the feud for 6 months of me saying let's move on to something else, with me finally saying, you know what, an ambulance match. Who can hate an ambulance match? Okay, now let's move it on.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. It used Rhea, it used Zelina Vega, it did what it needed to do. Like you said, let's move on and see what these guys can do next.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back to wrap up Nuclear Heat with a few predictions about what's going to happen this week in WWE. We'll talk about that next.
Want to make the easy call? Call John Henry's. From leaky pipes to a broken AC, flickering lights to furnace fights, even drains and duct cleaning, we've got it handled. Plumbing, heating, air, and electrical, all under one trusted roof. Proudly serving homes across Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas, and ready 24/7. Visit calljh.com or call John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air,
and Electrical.
Graham Tire presents life's greatest adventures.
Okay, take the worm, put it on the hook. Now bring your pole back and throw it forward. And just let the fish come to you.
I got a bite! It's a big one, Dad!
Great road trips start with great service. Graham Tire, your tire store next door, with 5 convenient Lincoln locations, getting you to the places that matter most.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
welcome back to Nuclear Heat here on 93.7 The Ticket. We've just got a few more minutes to make our predictions for this week as we get going here. Big January 5th, right? Battle there on Raw. So let's get into our predictions here. We'll start with the World Heavyweight Championship between CM Punk and Braun Breaker. And I'll credit you with this that you brought up there in the last segment. You've got two good guys with the belts now. Usually leading up to WrestleMania season, you do want to start that story of a good guy overcoming the odds to beat the bad guy at WrestleMania. So maybe we do see more of a chance at a title change here. And of course, there's a lot going on in the vision to maybe come up here and attack CM Punk. All that being said, I think this is CM Punk's first title defense. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So yeah, usually you win those, but who knows?
Yeah, he better not lose this because I mean he held the belt for 5 minutes, and then if he were to lose on his first title defense, that'd be very disappointing for a guy like CM Punk. So I got to go with CM Punk's got to retain here.
Yeah, I do too. And I think the vision, the Austin Theory stuff, I mean that could come back here. At some point Seth Rollins wants to attack both these guys. I think he's still out on the shelf for a while. But yeah, I gotta agree with you. Plenty of time to get Braun Breaker his title at some point. And it's the old kind of putting somebody over without actually, going over, not winning. I think they can do that without getting Braun Breaker the title. But that could be interesting. Tag team titles, Kabuki Warriors, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky.
Kabuki Warriors, I feel.
Yeah, they've been, as we mentioned, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky have been winning this feud as of late, just the last two skirmishes they've got. And usually that leads to the other team winning there. So, yeah, I'd say Kabuki Warriors too. Intercontinental, we talked about it earlier, Maxine Dupree and Becky Lynch.
It's a night of retains. I think it's going to be Maxine Dupree.
Yes, yeah, I think so too. Would that be 4 wins on Becky Lynch?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just going to have to move along, find something else to do. So we'll see what happens there. The only other match they've got is Liv Morgan's first singles match in her return against Lyra Valkyria. Lyra Valkyria once unbeatable. Now, she's taking a few pins, so I think Liv's going to get this one.
Yeah, Liv's going to get this one for sure.
So the only remaining question is Raw Jericho tomorrow night?
I don't know, man. I think this would be a perfect Royal Rumble return.
Right,
I think this would blow it. I know Chris Jericho, older, all that, but if you waited until the Royal Rumble to bring him back, I think that'd be phenomenal.
That would be an all-time moment, absolutely. So our final few thoughts here. We've also got next week on SmackDown, a couple matches there. Trick Williams against Ray Phoenix. Ray Phoenix jumping in and also taking exception to Trick Williams' attitude as well as Sami Zayn. So that's one match we know, and obviously I won't spoil it. Maybe Ray Phoenix wins there, but this seems like one you want to start Trick Williams off on the good side, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say Trick Williams on this one for sure.
Maybe the most difficult to predict here: Wyatt Six versus Solo in the MFTs in the 8-man tag match.
You got to go with the Wyatt Six, right? I mean, you have to. I just think they need more wins than Solo Sikoa and them.
It is interesting because Solo did say they're going to go after the titles after they beat him, right? So I do think that there is a possibility that Solo and the MFTs win this one so that they can argue to go after the Wyatt Six titles, which almost everybody forgets. The Wyatt Six are the tag team champions over there on SmackDown right now. So that could make some sense. So I'll pick the MFTs, but always waiting for the magic of the Wyatt Six. And finally, the 3 stages of hell match between Cody and Drew McIntyre. We mentioned it. I mean, WWE's done a good job, and like I say, they have to do in some of these feuds, filler feuds. And so maybe it's not quite that. Maybe there's a bit of me that thinks that maybe you do make that title change here and move forward and kind of shake some things up and make it interesting. But then there's always that voice in the back of my head that says Cody is quarterback number 1. They tell us that all the time. So I don't think he drops it here.
I don't think so either. But you know what? I'm going to hold on hope that next Friday or next Sunday, we'll be saying Drew McIntyre is your world heavyweight or your WWE champion, right?
Yeah.
He'd be the WWE champion. I'm going to hold out hope for that.
Wouldn't that be refreshing? We'll see if we get anything too refreshing. You and I picking pretty much similarly, so we think we've got this thing figured out.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll be wrong. That's what we always excite you to tune into wrestling. Well, thanks for joining us here on Nuclear Heat. That'll wrap it up for the show. As you said, we'll be back next week at 9 o'clock to talk about what went on with wrestling this week. Early break will get us going for 93.7 The Ticket bright and early in the morning. We'll say goodbye and go ahead and send it to National here. Thanks for joining us, and have a good evening.